North-South Connection, we are back with your number 5 match, which is Team Black and Gold versus Team 2.0. Andy Atherton is joining me here. How you
hmm
doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. I'm excited to talk about this because this was, obviously number five. Great match, great build. It's just there's so many great things to say about this because it had so many moving parts going into it, and the match how it played out
hmm
is emotions up and down. And I mean, it was booked probably as perfectly as it could have been booked. It's just I really enjoyed rewatching this match to talk about it tonight because when you think of war games, my mind direct immediately goes to WCW. But
hmm
then you look at some of the more modern ones that WWE, NXT have done, and this one is top notch. And I really am happy to get to talk about this with you. So and
Yeah,
break it down.
yeah, and we talked about the women's match from the same show, so we are the NXT WarGames 2021 experts for sure at this point. So, but I said the names of the teams. It's Team Black and Gold versus Team 2.0. Team Black and Gold is, of course, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Pete Dunne, and LA Knight. And then Team 2.0 is going to be Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Tony D'Angelo, and Grayson Waller, my boy. This is kind of where he became my boy. So,
Mm-hmm.
me and Ryan were always on the Grayson Waller train, so this is what kind of put him over the top for me. The build's pretty simple. It's kind of like the women's that we talked about. This, um, all of them were kind of paired off into little individual feuds. Tommaso and Braun had been fighting over the NXT Championship over the last few months. Obviously, Tommaso is still a champ going into this match with Braun pursuing him. Grayson Waller and LA Knight had split hosting duties of NXT Halloween Havoc like a month or a couple of weeks earlier than this. And then Carmelo Hayes and Johnny Gargano had kind of been feuding over the NXT North American title. Um, Pete Dunne was also kind of involved in that a little bit. And Tony D interfered in a match that the three of them had together and kind of took out Pete Dunne. So that kind of paired those two off throughout this feud. So pretty much just everybody kind of paired off with a person, and then they all kind of merged here together to face each other. Braun is really the only face on the 2.0 team, but he kind of, you know, he wants the newness. He wants the young guns to take over and get these old guys out of the way.
Yeah, they kind of
Um,
went the what like when they would do the Survivor Series matches, Raw versus SmackDown, heel face that kind of fades away just for this little time being,
yeah,
and they all kind of like unite under brand or banner, and this was they all unite under we're the new kids, we're the new blood 2.0, and you black and gold, you old farts, you guys get out of here. This is our brand now. We're bright colored. That's really what was at the heart of this because it wasn't a transition with a lot of the two black and gold guys either leaving or getting moved up, and there wasn't a lot of them left. And this was really where
no,
they were just. It was kind of like a hard stop, right
mhm,
on black and gold. It was like, no, this is we're rebranding. This is our new thing, and these four guys were kind of your. You maybe throw a couple of other guys in there to a lesser extent, but these were your four main male superstars that you were pushing to the top of this new brand.
yeah. Yeah, I would say these are definitely the new guys, and the only one that kind of didn't make sense to me was LA Knight being on the black and gold team because he had kind of just
Exactly.
come around like a year before that. But I understand that he's kind of a more of a veteran than some of these, or than the 2.0 team is, so he
Yeah,
definitely fits in that
he
manner.
did. He doesn't feel as black and gold as the other guys. I mean, could you have put O'Reilly in there? Could you have put Roddy in there? Maybe,
Yeah,
but they had other things going on.
yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, Adam Cole, I think, had already left at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm pretty sure that's right.
so yeah, so there was no other choice there. So it makes sense. I mean, what his entrance though? Oh boy, it is night and day. No pun
Yeah.
intended. For where it is today.
So yeah, I mean, when he comes out to the ring, it's I won't say crickets, but not much going on there for sure. I mean, kind of like you alluded to, but now he comes out and that music hits and the place just explodes. But when he comes out here, few chants, and they go along with the LA night and the yeah and all that kind of stuff. But it's not not as grand scale as it is now. The only other thing before we get into the match itself, this was Gargano's last night under contract. I don't know if they had really said that or not, but they actually broke out Rebel Heart to be his entrance music one last time. So I don't know if they had really said that this was his last night, but he was definitely, this was the last night on his contract. So this is the last match he had.
I think it was a thing of he was doing good business, because I think it might have ended and he agreed to stay. I don't know if it was him or Cole that did that, where they wanted to leave on good terms. Yeah, you could definitely tell by just Johnny, the way he comes out. And he comes out to Rebel Heart, the place explodes, literally like how LA Knights is now, right? And I love Rebel Heart. I wish they would bring that back. I mean, they have that other version, but you could definitely tell. Like, you could see that it's like true emotion, like when Edge came out at the Rumble when he made his big return. You could just see it on his face. It meant something, and it was such a great moment for him. Yeah, I think we it had come out, though. I think that could be his last night. Like, he hadn't resigned and he was just, finishing out. And I think they said that his last appearance, he was going to say goodbye on the next episode of the show.
Yeah. He was good. He appears on the next NXT. That's right. But yeah, I just didn't know if commentary or any of that said like, oh, this may be his last appearance for sure. But yeah, you could definitely see the emotion on his face. And, he usually has the Marvel kind of tights or whatever, or the gear that he has on is usually Marvel based, but it was like a collage of a bunch of characters. Like, usually it's just one character. And I think he really went out to like make sure it was like a big collection of all the stuff maybe that he had used before. So definitely meant a lot to him, and you knew it was a big night for him. But to start the match, Mello and Gargano start. I thought that was a great pairing to start out with, for sure. They have a really good back and forth. They don't hold anything back. They're quick, high flying, ton of big moves to start out. I forgot to mention, but Braun and Gargano had a ladder match, and the 2.0 team gets the advantage here. So Waller is out second. He was good from the get-go to me. I think he kind of knew how to work the crowd. He sells like a champ. So I really thought Waller kind of had it from the very beginning. Trick is on the outside, obviously, with Mello. He's come a long way since then, where we're at now. He's clearly Mello's lackey at this point, but very green as a performer. Dunn is out next for the black and gold team, and he immediately starts striking everyone. Bends Waller's fingers in the cage, just completely destroys his hand. So that was really entertaining to see.
There were some cool exchanges. I mean, Mello and Waller tried to do the DIY move where they do the dual kicks, and it fails. And John, and also before Pete Dunne comes in, Johnny gets both of them with after that he reverses. I think he hits Mello with like a DDT while nailing Waller or something like that. Yeah, it was really high paced, and the order these guys come in, I mean, it was the best case scenario. It was the best way they could have done this, I think.
Oh yeah. These are definitely the first four guys that I would have started out with, considering the two teams. But at some point, Dunn and Gargano both lock in submissions, and while they have the guy in submissions, they're each kicking the other guy that is in the other guy's submission. So I thought that was a really good spot. Waller then hits back-to-back rolling stunners as the timer goes off, and Tony D is the next guy in. Trick gives him every weapon left under the ring at this point, like we talked about in the women's match. I think they used pretty much every weapon. Whatever was left, Trick throws into the ring at this point. He goes. It
makes more sense with Trick being there too. The women's match, it came off awkward because they were not getting in the cage. They were too busy doing the weapon things to get in the cage. Having Trick out there, they get in there and Trick is out there doing all that. So I think it keeps the match moving, and it doesn't like have them kind of standing around, which kind of happens not too long after for a spot that doesn't really go off as planned initially, that we're about to talk about. But I think that's where Trick really comes in handy here and is playing that part at that time perfectly.
Yeah, it doesn't delay the entrance
No.
like it did in the women's match for sure. That's correct. But he gets a little too greedy, goes back under one more time, and Dexter Loomis emerges and kind of scares him to the back. So he kind of Dexter turns around and gives Johnny Gargano the big thumbs up and says, "You're welcome." Uh, but when Tony D goes in, he locks the cage door, so that gives them an extended 3-2 advantage. Knight, instead of finding bolt cutters, obviously that are under the ring, because why wouldn't they be under the ring? Because they're always there. But he climbs the cage instead, and the crowd gets really hyped for that. So then maybe they weren't as hyped for his entrance, but they definitely got hyped when he climbed the cage and got in there and
We
started.
got some chants
Yeah,
going too, which was really cool.
yeah, started giving it to the heels or the 2.0 team here. But the once Knight is in there, this segment is really dominated by Black and Gold. Dunn does everything you can imagine to poor Waller's hand. He's just destroying his hand all throughout this match. But Braun then enters last for the 2.0 team, immediately makes his presence known. He struggles with the lock a little bit, he gets the bolt cutters, tries to do it. Can't quite get it at first, but he eventually gets it out. Once he gets in the ring, 2.0 dominates that portion, really wearing all of them out with weapons. Ciampa, of course, is the only guy left for Black and Gold. He comes in, starts wearing everybody out, but the numbers game kind of catches up with him because his team's kind of been battered around. Gargano then evens things up with a crutch. A crutch had been entered into the game at some point. Again, we get the eventual classic stare down of the Black and Gold staring at the newbies. And Black and Gold starts kind of whooping all the newbies' asses. Mello then gets used as a torpedo into a bottom of a trash can in a nasty spot. I thought that was really gross. Tony D then saves Waller from Ciampa, putting him through the table. But Knight comes out of nowhere and hits a top rope belly to belly through that table. Knight then tries to take advantage of a Tower of Doom spot by hitting the BFT on Hayes. But Tony breaks up the pin attempt. You have any thoughts about this point in the match?
No, I mean, Braun gets in there, he wrecks everybody. I mean, he is just bodies everywhere. One of the fun spots I thought was he basically tosses Johnny from one ring to the other onto Pete and LA Knight.
Oh, yeah.
Ciampa gets in, the upside down, sits on a garbage can and does the clap and everything like that. I really enjoyed that. DIY working together. The place starts to blow up. 2.0 definitely was playing the heels in this this whole scenario, I thought. And then Johnny throwing Mello like a dart into a garbage can, you mentioned. LA tossing Waller off the rope. I mean, Waller hit that sick flying elbow on LA Knight through a table as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. They hit the neck breaker with a crowbar. I mean, this is just this really picks up the action and really it's a really well-paced match as well. We have our quick spots, we have our spots where everybody's down, and then I just love the action in this match. It just there's no really, there are spots when I guess they have to let them take a breath, but it doesn't feel that way to the watcher, I think.
Yeah, I got you. I'll just kind of pick up where I left off. Ciampa hits a middle rope air raid crash onto a trash can. I thought that was another nasty spot. I think you mentioned it just now. Tony D sets up another table, tells Waller to go to the top of the cage, to which he does his little between the legs elbow on Knight through the table, the Scott Shiflett spot, I'll call it, because that's when he fell in love with Grayson Waller in Dallas. So, but Tony hits a swinging neck breaker from the top rope with a crowbar across Dunn's throat. I thought that was nasty.
Yeah.
Ciampa and Gargano have Braun dead to rights, but Mello pulls or just happens to make it just in time to break up the pin and pulls the ref away. Mello then gets nailed with the running knee by Ciampa, but also pulls Gargano in to take some of the attack. So he takes out Mello, but he also takes out Gargano in the process. Ciampa then has Hayes up for the fairy tale ending, but while he has him up, Braun hits him with the spear through the table, kind of taking him out, and then to finish him off, puts him up for the power slam, slams him down, and 2.0 takes it home. This match is kind of the opposite of the women's match that we talked about on this. I feel like
Yeah.
once all 8 guys got in there, it took off and was like just so awesome and nonstop. Something was always happening. Somebody was always doing something, and something very, very impactful. So as
Mhm.
much as the women's match fell apart, I think it got way better and was really, really awesome once all
Yeah.
8 guys got in there for sure.
Definitely
What do you
high
think?
spots. Everybody was in the spots they were supposed to be. There was no real, kind of looking around like, what are we doing, and trying to figure out things. No, it was just the action was great. The result was the correct result. The pin and everything, because you have to move forward after this. You have to build for what's coming next. And LA Knight, I don't think he's down there too long. Before he becomes Max Dupree. Pete, he hangs around a bit. Johnny, we know about him, and Chomp is there for a while. But then, you got to set up your next head of the class here, which is going to be Braun. So Braun, hitting the pin on Ciampa, really builds for what they want to do coming out of this show.
Yeah, I think this quote unquote gets him the title shot at New Year's Evil, where he eventually does win the NXT Championship. But the one of the questions here on Ryan's little doodah sheet he's got going is, did it live up to the hype? I'll go ahead and answer from my perspective. I didn't have a ton of expectations for them. I loved all the guys involved in this, but there wasn't much hype around it just because not a ton of people were watching 2.0. I think a lot of people had given up on NXT at this point, and the few diehards like me, you, and Ryan were still checking it out and watching along. But I don't think
Yeah,
I don't think I had a ton of expectations for this one, but it
I
blew it
mean,
completely out of the water for sure.
NXT had been putting on some really good WarGames matches over the couple of years
Yeah.
before that. So I think that hype was up, not necessarily for the guys involved, because most of them had never been in a WarGames match. I mean, and some of them had only been, on TV for not that long, all the 2.0 guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the hype, I mean, it's more about the gimmick that was hype,
Yeah. Yeah,
but the people involved. I mean, you knew with Ciampa and Johnny and Pete that they were going to perform in there because they had all been in WarGames before. So it was. I think that's where it comes down to is the hype. Yeah, it lived up to the hype of a WarGames match. And they exceeded the hype in the performance inside that WarGames match, I think.
Yeah. I definitely think it lived up to the WarGames name for sure, especially the WWE NXT version that we had seen before. I think this is definitely one of the better ones, if not one of the best ones. I kind of skipped over this earlier, but just some of the ratings that this match was given. Cage Match gave it an 8.66. Meltzer gave it a 4 3/4, and our own very Ryan Gray gave it a 4.5. So, if that tells you how good it was, based on those guys, kind of levels that they had it at. But we have it here at number 5. Do you think that is a accurate representation of how good this match is? Would you have it higher? Would you have it lower? What's your thoughts?
No, I think it's right where it should be. I
Hmm.
think it's not a legendary, like, in terms of like,
Yeah.
like I said, like when I think of WarGames, I think of, because I'm a little bit older, I think of the
Oh,
WCW stuff and all that, and there were some others, but I think, yeah, in terms of like NXT though, it's probably the best one we've seen. That's my opinion. I think, yeah, I think on this countdown, no, it's right where it should be, I believe.
yeah, it may not have that historical significance, but I think it's one
Yeah.
that's definitely slept on.
Hmm.
If you haven't seen this match, you definitely need to go out of your way and go see it. A lot of these guys, 2.0 guys, are even on the main roster now. So, and some will be sooner rather than later, I think, based on a couple of guys where they're at in NXT right now. But yeah, definitely one you should check out. Just from a historical significance point, I guess now it's probably a little bit more historical significance because of LA Knight's ascension. Waller's
Hmm.
on the main roster now. Hayes has been on top of NXT. Breaker's been on top of NXT for a long time. And then
Yeah.
DIY just came back. So maybe
And,
in a few years, this one will be a lot more historically significant, but
I
maybe that
mean,
hurts it in the grand scheme of the rankings. But
and Tony D was, I wouldn't say he was green at this point, but the gimmick was still new,
Yeah.
and his in ring, he's not bad by any stretch in this match, by the way.
No, yeah.
But where he is now, the growth. I mean, you could not. It's not as big as an arc as Trick Williams, we might say, is going from lackey to a guy that could be in a WarGames match this year if they had it on their brand. But yeah, Tony D's. One thing also I love was the face paint.
Oh yeah, they all
2.0
have.
goes come out, and he had Ciampa as God of War because he looks just like the guy from the video game. It showed solidarity between the 2.0 guys, which really was good because they're all, like I said, mismatch of heels and faces. So, well, one face and heels, and no, that led into it too. I thought it was it kind of it's like a better version of the what is it, the Millionaires Club versus the New Club. It's a better version of that. How's that?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, and Tony D had the Italian flag on his cheek, so that was a really good war paint little thing they had. Yeah, I definitely like that. As I forgot to mention that was a cool little touch that they had that showed a little bit of solidarity for sure. But that's it. We talked about the match. We talked about how much we loved it. What do you have to plug here tonight, Andy?
Just plugging our show, man. Who's next? We're trying to get back to a more condensed time period, if you will. We just actually dropped the show recently that led up to right after Halloween Havoc. That's where we left off. So we're going to pick up after Deadline, which I will be at in person with our good friend JR Cineo D'Amato.
Yeah, so Mr. Andy's going to be at an NXT show himself. Hopefully it'll be a really good one. I'm sure it will. Most of them have been lately, so definitely have fun with that. But yeah, just check out who's next on the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed. We talk about current day NXT. Some of these guys are still there. Some of them have graduated. We're always proud of our graduates, and we think of them as our children. So
yeah, I know. Whenever somebody comes up, we always say we will miss each other.
I'm so proud.
I'm a proud papa. No, it's fun. I honestly I love the brand. It's one of those little engine that could things. It's like almost like an underdog in a way. Yeah. But it's fun just watching them grow and getting to talk to you about it is really heightened my enjoyment of the brand. So that's just saying that, putting that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. me too, buddy. But yeah, just check out that and check out everything here on the North South Connection, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.